Sabalenka threatens to leave WTA after controversial loss to Eala. What began as a routine match went to nothing.
Following a contentious defeat to Eala, Sabalenka has threatened to quit the WTA. What started off as a normal match ended up becoming one of the most thrilling evenings in women's tennis history. A loss that was not anticipated. A response that no one anticipated. And a hush that had fans wondering if one of the strongest fighters in the sport was really prepared to give up. We go into the match, the collapse, and the moment that the tour feared may turn everything around tonight. Although underdogs have triumphed in tennis before, Alexandra Eala's ascent seemed unique. She revised expectations in addition to playing matches. She wasn't expected to pose a threat to the tour's titans because she started the season rated outside of the top 40. She was youthful, nimble, imaginative, and brave. However, until this event, no expert had the audacity to rank her among the top competitors. Something changed during the initial rounds. Commentators began referring to the fire she was using to destroy seasoned players as the spark. She had precise footwork. Her posture exuded confidence that suggested she wasn't playing for survival, and her shot selection was mature beyond her years. She was trying to dominate by playing. Word quickly spread. Videos of her daring down the line winners and angles went viral on the internet. Fans from the US, Europe, and Asia showered comment sections with compliments. For over 3 days in a row, her name was trending. She turned into the tournament's main character. However, Aryna Sabalenka, a woman whose mere presence demanded respect, loomed in the shadows of her ascent. The emotional lifeblood of the WTA, he is a heavy hitter and multiple Grand Slam champion. Expectations trailed Sabalenka like a thundercloud when she entered a draw. She was accustomed to being under pressure. It was her home. She even flourished on it at times. However, it felt heavier this season. She had experienced lengthy bouts, close defeats, and times when detractors questioned whether she was losing her edge. According to one analyst, she remains the alpha, but the pack is getting closer. Sabalenka was aware of it. She felt as though she had to pass every match. Every interview, headline, and comparison gave her more weight than she had requested. And the story changed as I continued to win. What happens if the queen is challenged by the young star? The excitement increased when the semi-final draw put them on a collision course. Fans' desire for a match intensified. Sabalenka dismissed inquiries. "It's just another match," she remarked, her smile restrained. But beneath that smile, she felt strain because she knew something wasn't quite right. Eala wasn't acting like the underdog. She was acting as though someone was vying for her position. Furthermore, the idea of being displaced was not only disconcerting but also enraging for a champion like Sabalenka. Drama was what the competition desired. Fireworks were what the supporters wanted. They were going to receive more than they had requested. Tension hummed in the air like static as soon as the players set foot on the court. Although Sabalenka seemed very focused, people who followed her career were unfamiliar with the tightness in her expression. Eala, on the other hand, moved with purpose rather than haughtiness. The kind that draws attention from even seasoned champs. The first several games went according to plan. Sabalenka established dominance by attacking hard and making early mistakes. Her aggressiveness was applauded by commentators. They answered, "This is the Sabalenka we know." Eala, however, did not fold. Rather, she adjusted. She diverted speed, absorbed Sabalenka's big forehands, and pushed her into awkward positions. Every rally turned into a psychological conflict. And the momentum changed gradually. Then the time arrived. Eala blasted a looping forehand at 33 that came uncomfortably close to the baseline. Mid-step, Sabalenka halted and raised her hand, demanding that it was out. The umpire didn't agree. The point remained. The audience erupted. Sabalenka quarreled. Tension increased. Eala remained unflinching. That moment turned become the catalyst. Suddenly, Sabalenka's strength was insufficient. Her annoyance overcame her. Normally, she would crush shots that went beyond the lines. Her timing was off. Her breathing became more labored. She started staring at her squad in shock, as though she didn't comprehend what was going on. Eala, meantime, had the game of her life. The first set was concluded by a stunning cross-court winner. The stadium let forth a roar. It was no longer impossible to cause the disturbance. It was happening in real time. Sabalenka put up a valiant fight in the second set, angry looks at the umpire, screams, and fist pumps. It was unadulterated passion, the kind of fire that characterized her work. Eala, however, matched her intensity with cool accuracy. 42-53-54. Eala then executed a forehand winner down the line after stepping into a return on match point. Set, match, game. The stadium blew apart. Ella's expression conveyed incredulity. Her group let out a shout. Fans celebrated the occasion by waving flags and chanting her name. But Sabalenka was the center of attention. Her jaw clenched. She pushed back tears, causing her chest to rise abruptly. She gave Eala a too-fast handshake and turned to face her bench without turning around. She spoke something to herself. It was captured by courtside reporters. And the video became viral in a matter of minutes. The internet exploded as soon as Sabalenka left the courtroom. The video showing her mumbling, "I can't do this anymore," received 500,000 views on X in just 10 minutes, and within an hour, hashtags became viral. Hashtag the WTA drama from the Sabalenka meltdown era has left the tour. Slow-motion clips of her response were posted on every sports page. Her body language was examined by analysts. Reaction channels produced thumbnails featuring frightened faces and flashing red arrows. Fans immediately took sides. Some people stood up for her. Sabalenka is responsible for the entire sport. She is free to express her emotions. Others launched an assault. She showed no class, disregarded Eala, and left like a bitter loser. However, the loudest faction promoted a more sinister narrative. Is Sabalenka giving up tennis? There was a false news account. According to sources, Sabalenka is thinking about quitting the WTA because of unfair treatment. It wasn't authentic. It was irrelevant. People believed it. Timelines were overrun with memes. Sabalenka altered contracts, boarded aeroplanes, and packed baggage. Fans of Eala from the Philippines and the international tennis world vehemently backed their young star. Fair and square, she prevailed. It was chaos, thousands of people wrote. In an attempt to put out the blaze, even commentators joined in. Sabalenka is emotional, but leaving the tour, let's slow down. However, no one slowed down. The rumor grew stronger when Sabalenka posted nothing. No message, no apology, nothing at all. It was seen by fans as confirmation. After all, Sabalenka had previously made raw, impassioned remarks. One former athlete stated on a podcast that, sometimes pressure breaks even the strongest. Eala, on the other hand, made an effort to remain calm. Her post-match interview was entirely about improvement, hard effort, and thankfulness. Not once did she bring up Sabalenka. However, avoiding the subject did not put an end to the storm. It was just strengthened by it. The situation reached a new height when an insider revealed information from Sabalenka's locker room hours later. The source claims that Sabalenka repeatedly said, "I'm tired," while sitting with her head in her hands. "I have to stop doing this." Her team made an effort to reassure her that the loss did not define who she was. However, it is alleged that she shook her head and remarked, "It's not the loss, it's everything." Panic was sparked by those 3 words. Journalists covering tennis started wondering about burnout. Mental tiredness was reported by former players. Retirement was feared by fans. Whether the Belarusian powerhouse had finally given in to the tour's expectations was a topic of discussion among commentators. Sabalenka was struggling with something more profound behind closed doors. The fear of being replaced, the strain, and the scrutiny. She wasn't merely losing games. She thought she was becoming less of herself. Isa, meantime, was battling her own emotions. She started to be blamed by the media for Sabalenka's collapse. Her accounts were inundated with accusations from trolls. "Her career was ruined by you. Congratulations." She quit because of you. You ought to provide an apology. Isa, who was only 19, was unprepared for this. For a moment like this, she worked her entire life. However, rather than commemorating a victory that would define her career, she was being pulled into a dispute that she had nothing to do with. She reportedly sobbed after reading the comments, according to friends. She did, however, softly say something to a fellow player among the pandemonium. "I'm hoping she stays. I have a lot of respect for her." Isa thought highly of Sabalenka. This is not what she wanted. However, the rumors kept getting worse, and until everything reached a breaking point. "Are you considering leaving the WTA tour?" A reporter questioned Sabalenka straight. "I need time," she remarked after pausing and looking down. "I require room." The world heard what it desired to hear. The reality was much more complex and human than the online frenzy. The WTA was never in danger from Sabalenka. She never expressed her desire to quit to the authorities. She never submitted any official paperwork. However, she disclosed something vulnerable to a close friend in private. "There are moments when I think the world wants me to be a machine. However, I'm not a machine. I'm shattering." There was no resignation in their statements. They were an appeal for assistance. In a covert manner, the WTA offered mental health assistance. She wasn't leaving, according to the coaches who were close to her. She simply felt overburdened. Media outlets were instructed by tournament directors to cease disseminating misleading information. However, the silence of the truth does not force the internet to slow down. Clarity was required by fans. Her team was nervously called by sponsors. News sites and YouTubers used the rumor to gain views. Ella submitted a message that changed the tone in an unanticipated display of maturity. "Honor each and every player. Every player is a human, and every match is a war. I hope we all keep improving in the sport because I learned so much today." The noise eventually subsided once it became viral. The camp of Sabalenka issued a brief statement. "Aryna's emotional recovery take some time. Despite her dedication to the sport, she needs time to herself following a trying time." Days of upheaval came to an end with those few words. However, it was still unclear if she would bounce back or if this was the start of a fall. Sabalenka resumed her modest, private practice a week later. Reporters saw glimpses of her forcefully striking balls because she was determined. The force of reconstruction, not the force of rage. She was recalibrating rather than giving up. She's not done, according to her coach. She's starting over. Eala's notoriety surged in the meantime. Her nation honored her by inviting her to interviews.